Hi, this is Steve O'Mooney, and you're listening to another production of the Four-Eyed Radio Network at foureyeradio.com.
Starfleet Escape Podcast. Prepare for launch in 3, 2, 1. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to the Starfleet Escape Podcast on the Four-Eyed Radio Network, where we escape into the Star Trek universe. This is episode number 30 and is being recorded on October 3rd, 2013. Today's topic, the best of Star Trek, The Next Generation. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Marty. And this episode is brought to you by America Joy Print Shop, official sponsor of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. For high-quality business cards, flyers, banners, cut vinyl, and more, visit americajoy.com.
How's it going, Marty?
It's going okay. Just very busy. And I heard that one of our friend Eric is not to be found tonight because he is very busy.
Yeah, it seems to be a running theme with us.
All of us.
Yeah.
I almost didn't make it. You almost didn't make it.
I'm really happy about this topic. It's one that I'm excited to talk about.
It's near and dear to your heart.
It is. Star Trek The Next Generation is by far my favorite Star Trek series.
Well, you grew up. You broke your teeth on that.
I did. I don't remember not knowing what Star Trek The Next Generation was.
I do, but not for very long.
Indeed. Why don't we jump into the news here?
Sure.
The next Destination Star Trek event is set for the weekend of February 21st to 23rd, 2014. It will be held at Messe Frankfurt.
Yes,
in
Messe Frankfurt in Frankfurt, Germany.
Fans can expect to enjoy talks, photo shoots, and autographs opportunities, as well as the chance to check out sets, props, costumes, and much more. Seems sort of like a Star Trek The Experience kind of event.
Yep.
I wish I could go.
How much is it? Did you check that out?
I don't.
We should look that up. Just out of curiosity, because you know what?
Yeah.
You never know. You and I could probably go.
Well, it's in Germany.
So what? I know how to speak German.
Well, that would be of use then.
Oh, yes.
I don't
think you can go?
see... Oh, wait, ticket info. Okay, so I'm guessing these euros. There's a one-day entry on Friday. Online price is, it looks like 35 euros. At the door price is 40 euros. And then, it goes on, but if you want all 3 days, online 59 euros, and at the door 65 euros. So next, ThinkGeek and Her Universe are joining forces to launch a Year of the Fangirl Design Contest called Make It So, spelled S-E-W.
That's like that joke.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Submissions must be made by October 7th, which is the day that this episode airs.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we could have gotten it out. If we had a weekly show, we could have gotten it out of the box sooner. And the winners, the winners will be announced on October 14th. So this, they didn't really give people much time for this contest.
Yeah.
But I wish everyone luck who enters it. Moving on to the next. Star Trek The Original Topps Trading Card Series book by Abrams Books is now available for $19.95.
Is that J.J. Abrams' book?
I do not believe it is, no.
Everything.
The link will be in the show notes if you want to check this out.
He owns everything!
It's, kind of cool. So, Marty, you have pets.
Yes, I do.
You have cats, though.
Yes, I have 3 cats. Mako, Malin, and Vera.
If you had a dog, this next product may be for you.
Yes.
A Crowd Coop will introduce the first ever Star Trek The Original Series pet product collection. It's set to include dog collars, dog leashes, water and food bowls,
Food
dog beds, and dog toys, all with a Star Trek flair.
And for those first two things, I know that people could use them for other things. Anyways, the collars and the leashes.
Yeah, so I guess I know what to get you and your wife.
Yes.
Whoa.
Make sure mine is studded. Anyways,
extra large.
A crowded coupe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to have Star Trek series pet products. That's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I just wish they had other pet. Some of us have cats and turtles and.
Well, we talked a few weeks ago about the person on Etsy, I believe, that made was it Etsy? Or maybe not Etsy, but someone made a Star Trek Enterprise and Romulan Bird of Prey cat house thing. What are those things that they scratch?
The posts?
Yeah.
The scratching post?
Yeah, scratching posts.
Scratching posts, yeah.
So, I mean, those are cool things, especially.
Wish they had it for other things, though.
Well,
they might.
Yeah, if this line, does well, who knows? I don't know what else. What do cats like? I don't know.
What do cats like? Catnip.
But there's like chew toys also. Yes. Star Trek chew toys. Maybe you can
like that, yeah.
give that to a cat.
A mouse that's got a Trek uniform on.
Or a
Chase,
or a Tribble.
A Tribble, yeah, because that's what most of the mice toys look like, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Just Tribble.
Mako, would you like that? He's doing the Vulcan symbol. That's so nice.
I'm sure.
You ever seen a cat do that? It's amazing.
So, speaking of lens flares, J.J. Abrams apologized to Star Trek fans for the amount of lens flares in Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, there was more than the first one.
After showing his wife an early version of Star Trek Into Darkness, he realized that there were too many lens flares.
Yeah, too many is any. Anyway.
I guess they had to go in and digitally edit out lens flares because there were just
edit.
too many.
Oh my god. Okay, here's one I like.
Uh-huh.
William Shatner, the man, the myth, the legend.
Mm-hmm.
The one that Family Guy makes fun of all the time. Will be touring this October to promote his record, Ponder the Mystery. And we do have the website to check that out. His Shatner October Tour. So it's a Shatner Oktoberfest.
Right, and I'm sure that will be awesome. Ish. My feelings about William Shatner.
You love him.
Oh, actually, speaking of William Shatner, a few weeks ago his Shat-Toetry app was free to download, so I downloaded it.
Shat-Toetry?
Yeah, so...
Oh my god.
So, for those who don't know, Shat-Toetry app is basically little audio clips of words
that Shatner said,
that
right?
Shatner reads.
Yeah.
And playing with it, I kind of appreciate it a little bit more.
What do you put them together?
You put them together. You can buy word packs.
It's like Mad Libs.
Yeah, exactly. So you can buy word packs to...
upgrade what you have for his voice.
Upgrade more words and stuff.
I'd rather do it with Nimoy's voice.
Oh, but no. It has to be Shatner. Because it's funny, because you can tap on the words to increase, to change the way it's said. So you can have, like, more pauses and stuff.
Oh my God.
It's hysterical.
So there is something you like about Shatner.
I like that he's willing to make fun of himself.
Yes,
and
after years, he a long time ago, he couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, this app totally is, he's definitely making fun of himself with this app, and I'm all for that.
I wonder if he authorized it.
Oh, no, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he's making money off of this app. And
How? If it's free?
It's not free.
Oh, because you pay to do the upgrades.
Well, it's free.
Didn't you download it for free?
It was like on sale, like a limited time free download.
Okay, and then you got to upgrade the packs. Yeah, so that costs.
Yeah, so normally.
So what's the cost?
I think it was like $2.
Yeah.
To buy it.
Not many people will buy it just because it's Shatner.
Oh, I'm sure tons of people already bought it before. It was on sale for a holiday or something. Like during Labor Day, it was free or something like that.
Yeah. I just wonder if he really talks like that in real life. Like when he goes home to his family, you know what I mean? Does his own family or family members or friends come up to him and say, "Would you freaking stop that"?
I'm sure he doesn't, because I've heard interviews and stuff where
He
he
doesn't.
talks normally.
Normally, yeah.
I think he was just doing it for dramatic effect and didn't realize
It was horrible. Yeah.
it was, an interesting choice.
Okay, so September 26th marked the 12th anniversary of Star Trek Enterprise.
Can you believe that? It's
No.
been
12
12 years.
It also means that it's been 12 years since Voyager went off the air.
Yes.
Of course, you didn't mention that. I got to back up Eric tonight. You didn't mention that, did you?
Well, it's not the anniversary of their last episode of
No,
Voyager.
No.
It's the anniversary of
The first episode of the
Enterprise.
Enterprise.
Which
was only like 3 weeks later, but that's okay.
What do you mean 3 weeks later?
Enterprise started right after Voyager.
Voyager ended in like May of like 2001 or whatever.
Yeah,
or 2000,
and
whatever.
Enterprise started, what, at the end of the summer?
September 26th. You just read it.
I know, but still.
It's months.
Okay.
Plus,
Months, big deal.
Plus, we did mention the anniversary of Endgame when it did,
and
a few months ago.
Panned it. Yeah.
And we, Eric and I also did a supplemental episode.
Which Eric?
Eric Berry.
Okay.
Which, if you don't know, are supplemental series of episodes.
How many do we have?
We have 2 so far.
2.
So I plan on having
We should
more.
do another one. We should do one together, you and I.
Indeed.
Which ones did you do it on so far? Endgame?
We did Endgame and yesterday's Enterprise.
We should do all good things.
All good things would be good.
Yeah.
But those who don't know, it's basically a commentary track that we make that is meant to be played along with an episode.
An episode, yeah.
It's, if you ever watched Mystery Science Theater 3000, it's roughly on the same idea or on a DVD.
We don't make fun of it.
We don't make fun of it. It's along the lines of a commentary track on a DVD.
Yeah.
You just, sync
Only
it up.
when more interesting.
Yeah, I hope so. It all depends on the episode, I guess.
Yeah.
September 28th marked the 26th anniversary of Star Trek The Next Generation. And 26 years, I can't believe it. It's been that long.
Well, it's younger than you. That's a lot to say.
Barely younger than me.
But I'm
It's
just
barely
saying.
younger than me. Yeah.
4 years younger than you? Yeah. You know what's really shocking about that?
What?
26 years ago, Ronald Reagan was president.
And I'm too young to remember that.
Mm-hmm. The Pope. It was 3 popes ago, not 2.
That's a lot of popes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, in the progression of the effects from that time period until the end of the series, there was a lot of growth that you could tell within that, from season 1 to season 7.
Yeah. Basically, season 1 was like coming out of a cold shower. And season 7 was like taking some medicine for ED. Anyways.
I don't understand.
You know what you mean by that. Yeah, sure you don't. It was a cold! The water was cold! No, anyways. So, yeah, they progressed pretty well, too. It was only, 7 years?
Right, the series, a
Amazing.
7-year run.
7 years, I think, that they went from... And by the time they get to the 7th year, it pretty much was all CGI. The ships, at least, I'm pretty sure, were almost all CGI.
No, they were still physical studio models.
Were they? But they
yeah.
were starting to do the CGI stuff.
They did see, for
Battle scenes.
battle scenes, but none of the actual ships. They were all...
When was it that they changed over, though? There was a point at which they changed it. Maybe it was Star Trek 6.
For CGI?
Yeah.
No, CGI... I mean, even in the Generations movie, those were all, physical models. They didn't start doing CGI for the principal ships until
The end of maybe...
Voyager. They started them in Voyager where they were all those ships.
Oh, I thought they did it for Deep Space Nine.
They probably did
Yeah.
in Deep Space Nine, but the beginning of Deep Space Nine was still physical
Yeah, I know.
models.
Yeah.
Because remember, that was 93 that started.
Yep.
Still physical models.
Hey, are you saying it's old?
Yeah. And then
Let's see, 93. How old were you by then?
I was 10 in 93.
Mm.
Actually, not even. I wasn't even 10 because it happened in like January, I think, of
Really?
of 2000 of
Yeah,
not
it was a
2000.
mid-season replacement.
Yeah, it started in. It
So
didn't
really
start in September.
it didn't have its 7 seasons then, technically.
No, it still had 7 seasons. It was just shorter.
It's short first season.
It's short for a season, right? That's why Star Trek: The Next Generation has the most amount of episodes.
Yeah.
Is because it had like a full
Yeah.
run.
And then by the time Voyager came in, they had been shortening the seasons.
Well, Voyager started in January as well.
Yeah, but by that year, season. You know how crazy the seasons. I mean, I remember when I was a kid. Seasons began in like mid or early September, right, when school came back,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd end sometime late May. And now it's like the seasons, because of HBO and all those other channels now, they come on in the middle of Groundhog Day and go off on Labor Day.
Yeah, seasons
It's just weird.
are weird. Example is Grimm
Yeah,
on NBC. It has a weird season
yeah.
thing. I mean to watch it actually because I love the first season. I just
Was it
didn't
good?
get. First season was great. I wasn't able to watch the second season much, and the third season starts this year or this.
Whenever
upcoming
they decide to
season.
do it, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, why don't we?
But
move on?
28 years ago, my God.
No, 26.
I keep on reading the wrong number. 26 years ago. Can you believe that, though?
Yeah.
My God.
I mean, who thought we would still be talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation?
I didn't.
I mean, that first couple of years were a little shaky.
Yeah.
But anywho, let's move on to our next topic. Would you buy it?
Okay.
So, what this is a Star Trek Starfleet Ice tray, which is going for $9.99. So it's a silicone ice tray that makes 8 command insignia Starfleet ice cubes.
So the Delta Shield.
Right, with that
Command
elongated star in the middle.
Yep.
And it's available on ThinkGeek. So, Marty, would you buy it?
Yes, because I already have one that's like this. We've talked about this before.
Mhm.
I have a Darth Vader helmet one
Mm-hmm.
from Star Wars, and it works perfectly. And you get perfect dyes of the shape. It's exact.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like. Plus, I like the silicone better because it's easier to get them out.
Right. I would buy this as well. We had on a previous Would You Buy It, another silicone ice cube tray that has
Enterprise D
the Enterprise D with the communicator insignias
from Next Generation.
from the Next Generation, which I don't believe it's for sale yet. I think it's more towards Christmas.
Mhm.
But that one's going out. This one's available right now, and you can buy it right now from ThinkGeek, and it's pretty awesome.
I
You can
wish, I was saying to you earlier, you remember I said this to you earlier, I wish they
Mhm.
had the science and the what's the other one? Science and engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they had those insignias because the symbol's different on it.
I would buy this. I actually don't really care about the other insignia because this is like the insignia that you always think of when you think of Star Trek. And the movie era, the TOS movies all had this kind of insignia with the elongated star in the middle.
I want them to come out with the one from the original series movies, the big long one.
With like that plate in the back of the.
I loved it. I loved that one.
Yeah, that's cool. That's definitely cool. As like a ice cube tray, you would want that?
Yeah, why not?
I guess those are big ice cubes, though.
Yeah, I like cold drinks.
I like very cold drinks, Aaron.
Yes,
Get off
I
my
do.
back.
I'm gonna need a really big ice tray. I just need a block. That's all. Give me a big block.
Yeah, and along with ice, you can also use this as like a candy
Chocolate.
mold. You could put Jello in this and make like
They could jiggle.
they could jiggle.
I'd have too much fun.
you could go all out in the like have a Trek
The
themed
adults out
party.
there, Jello shots.
Jello shots. You can put the ice cubes in a glass of Romulan ale.
Which they show on the site, which is cool because it's lit from behind too.
Oh, in the product picture.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a rare moment when all the hosts on the show say that they would buy the Would You Buy It.
Well, what about Eric?
I'm sure he would buy it as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he would.
He
He's a sucker for. I mean, he likes those things.
He does like those things, and I'm pretty sure he said yes to the other ice cube tray that we had on the show.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next.
So our topic for the evening.
So the best of the next generation. So what we have here are.
Thank God it isn't. Thank God. Hold on a second. Thank God it isn't the best of Voyager, because we would have been the best of Voyager, and that's it.
Endgame. Wait, there were more episodes, weren't there?
Yeah. One episode. That show went off fast. No.
So what we have here, we went through and picked out the episodes that we liked the best from each season.
Mm-hmm.
As I think we said a little earlier, there were 7 seasons of the Next Generation, a total of about 178 episodes.
I think it is 178. Yeah.
So yeah, a vast number of episodes there. There would have been more if there wasn't a writer's strike in the second season. Probably would have broke 180.
Yeah, probably would have.
But from season 1,
Yep. Go ahead.
we would have to go with Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah, the first show has to be on there. If the first show isn't good, forget about it.
Right. Now, I don't think the episode as a whole was that great.
It's actually 2 episodes, you know.
It's 2 different episodes written together.
Yeah. When they were originally trying to come up with the first episode, they came up with 2 totally different plans.
Mm-hmm.
And
No. The reason why they wanted a longer episode, so that's why they wrote in the Q part.
The Q part, yeah. But I thought it was 2 separate originally, too.
I don't know.
You have to check on that. But in quite almost Disney fashion, when they made Epcot, they pushed 2 things together and made one land. They just pushed 2 shows together, and they got Encounter Farpoint. Because if you watch it, it kind of is confusing how the Enterprise, like you're starting the show and the Enterprise isn't already got its full crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me.
Right.
Like half the crew is on that planet where the thing happened.
Right. At Farpoint Station.
Farpoint, yeah. It's just that's just a coinky dink, isn't it?
The good thing about this episode is that it introduces Q.
Yes.
I think Q added tremendously to the fabric of the
show. Yeah,
the
whole
show. I mean, exactly. It from beginning to end, bookends. I mentioned this before. This show had a bookends, which other shows didn't have, and I think they should have.
Well, they didn't bring back the crystalline entity for All Good Things. They brought back Q.
Right. Well, the crystalline entity was destroyed.
I know, but
and it wasn't in Encounter at Farpoint.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always get those 2 mixed up. It's the thing. That
it's like the jellyfish people.
Jellyfish thing. Yeah.
Not people, but
people. They're pretty big people.
Those jellyfish.
Wasn't that a jellyfish
entities.
that they used though? It looks like a jellyfish.
I don't. No, it's not like a real jellyfish because those things are like feathers.
Yeah, they didn't bring that thing back.
No, which I'm glad they didn't.
Q. Yeah, because if they had done it without Q that first show, it would have been a flop.
Yeah.
Because it was just like a little. That other part is basically just a side story.
Which was the whole story originally. But yeah, Q. I wish they made a better episode, really focusing more around Q. But it was cool that they had the trial of humanity.
What I really liked about that was that they showed not only did you get a brand new show and a brand new time period, but you also got a view of how humanity was in a different time period than what we ever saw with that trial. Because that trial is supposed to be akin to the time period right after the eugenic wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you got to see even something that we had never seen before on top of this. So that's why I think it was good. Of course, I don't think it's the best show in Star Trek as compared to All Good Things, which we'll talk about later. But it's nowhere near. And other ones like Best of Both Worlds and things like that. It's nowhere near the same.
Right. And also a quick tangent. We mentioned in the, I believe
How
it was
about a hypotenuse instead? We never do a hypotenuse.
We mentioned in the last episode, and then I went and looked it up. You brought up the fact that there was a contest to be on the show.
Yeah.
Apparently, an elderly person won the contest.
Wow.
And opted for a cash payout instead of being on the show.
Do you know what the cash payout was?
I don't know.
Cheap bastard.
But yeah, so that's what happened.
So no old woman in the tunic with the skirts on.
Right. So
that sucks.
They tried to go back. Apparently, their records aren't that great. So there's no real record on who won. They don't have that person's name anymore.
Sure. I'm going to tell you, back in those days, there was no winner. They did it
No one won.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there you go. Actually, the promo spot is online.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's TrekCore, I believe, has the promo, and I went through their website and
I'll have to look it up.
I found the info for the winner.
It was through what? Cheerios?
Yeah, is that General Mills?
Yeah, it was Cheerios. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
That damn bee lied.
So next, from season 1, one of my favorite episodes is Conspiracy.
Now, why is it one of your favorite?
It was a really interesting plot where you got things are happening and you don't know what's happening and you can't trust anyone. And that's kind of something that you've never seen in Star Trek before that I can recall. And then to learn that admirals and other key personnel are basically being manipulated and controlled by these animals or parasites.
Parasites, yeah.
That are, that go in.
And they never mention it again.
That's another thing. I really wish there was a follow-up to this episode.
I think there was supposed to be.
I think Eric mentioned that there was a book that kind of went...
Look, who needs a book, though, Aaron? Do we read?
I don't.
No, I don't.
But in this book, I guess, it turns out that this species, in the Conspiracy episode, was a rival faction of the Trill species. And these two factions had a war. I don't know what the book was. If you listen to a few episodes back, it's in one of those episodes.
Because Eric's the one that reads. He actually was taught how to read.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Conspiracy, one of my favorite episodes.
It's a good episode.
Of season 1. And that, can you think of any other episodes from season 1 that were good? I mean, season 1 is probably my least favorite.
It's my least favorite too, and none of them come to mind really. It's a good question. No, I can't think of any.
Right. I think there was another Q episode, I think.
Let me ask you a question, and I might be mistaken, but the one with the binars in it, was that that was the first season? I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Riker didn't have a beard, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I absolutely liked that one.
Yeah.
Just because it was weird.
It was very weird. I liked the aspect of the holodeck and Riker kind of falling in love with this character on the holodeck. I thought that was cool. And in a later episode, you see someone... what's that episode? Remember that episode where Riker... where this person is kind of like using Riker as like a father figure in this scenario, and the mother ends up being the person from the Binar episode.
No, I don't remember.
Goodness, I can't remember what it was. I don't think it's on here. I don't believe I added it. But anywho, that was an interesting episode as well, because it kind of shows a possible future, but not really because it's all made up.
Oh, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. The storyline goes Riker was in a coma, and then, wakes up, and
It's like, what, 10 years later?
He's the captain of the Enterprise. Picard is a admiral. Troy is
his
Picard's assistant.
Yeah, that one. All right, I do remember it.
Yeah,
and Picard's on. What was Picard on? Picard was on like a Klingon or a Romulan ship.
Romulans.
Romulan, yeah.
Tomalak, I believe, was in the episode.
Yeah.
Not the real Tomalak, but yeah. Oh man, I wish I could remember that episode. That was actually a good episode. Anywho, moving on to season 2. I picked Measure of a Man, the episode where Data's right to exist is put on trial.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a very, powerful episode.
Well, you and Eric talk about it a lot.
Right. It's a good episode, and also Eric Dewey of the Four Eyed Radio Network also talks about this episode, and it's one of his favorites, and he wants to do a supplemental with us on this episode.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so basically Data, there's a JAG officer, and there's a...
Hey, just because you don't like him doesn't mean you can call him a JAG.
A Judge Advocate General, for those who
one of
don't
those.
know.
Never mind.
Yeah, and then you have a cyberneticist, a Starfleet one, that wants to basically take Data, pull him apart, see what makes him tick.
Because they're trying to figure out why he works the way he does.
Yeah, and they want to make more Datas, basically. And then it comes up within the episode, well, doesn't that end up making this a race of androids?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't they innately need rights?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they just going to enslave these creatures? Well, not creatures, these machines. But you can't make a machine that can think and feel and then not give them any rights.
Mm-hmm.
If you want that, making like automaton that just follows commands, not something that can think for its own.
But then it's not an artificial intelligence.
Well, we can talk about this, I guess, too. And I think it was in season 7. It's not one of my favorite episodes, but that episode when the Enterprise D makes an emergent, intelligent life form.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that the Enterprise D is a life form?
Yeah.
Right?
It does think for itself.
It thinks for itself. It has all these things. It can make things, right, with the replicator. You could say that the humans aboard are like the bacteria that make it work, I guess. I don't know. Not one of my favorite episodes, that one. But anywho, so Measure of a Man, good episode. I highly recommend it. Go watch it. One of the key things in it, Riker has to be the one on the opposite side of Data, basically trying to prove that he isn't.
He's forced to do that too.
He's forced to. If he doesn't do it, then Data automatically will go and be ripped apart.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
If he basically is he property of Starfleet Command is basically what it comes down to.
No, he's property of Dr. Soon.
Well, at that time it was presumed he was dead.
I know, but
can property go through Starfleet Command and earn a commission? That again, that doesn't make any sense. If he isn't a sentient being, but you can't have a toaster go through Starfleet Academy.
Sure you could. They have really good toasters by that point.
They have really awesome toast. Never overcooked.
Could you imagine the toast?
With Starfleet insignia burnt right in.
Yeah.
Next.
Well, they even get branded with. They get branded with the symbol property of Starfleet Academy.
Exactly. Next from season 2, Q Who.
Yes, Q Who was really good.
It's where we meet the Borg.
Yep. And very much early, way before they should have.
Right. Q basically flings the Enterprise into the path of a Borg cube,
Well, he sends it out to the Delta Quadrant, doesn't he?
way far from Starfleet. It would take them years to reach the closest starbase at maximum warp. I forget the exact number, but it was less than Voyager's journey, so they weren't quite as far out. So that kind of shows that the Borg were probably on their way anyway.
They're on their way.
So yeah, they needed the Borg, something that an opponent that was scary. They needed. They didn't have the Klingons anymore, really.
Not yet.
Right, well, in the early TNG, the whole Klingon thing was kind of muddled. You know, there was hints of the Klingons had joined the Federation, and then they kind of backpedaled on that a little bit.
Yeah, they backpedaled on that, yeah.
So there was a lot with that. And then the Ferengi were supposed to be the new threat, which, you know how that turned out. So they needed a species, they needed something to make the next generation great. And the Borg, I think we can agree, is what made TNG great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my pick for season 2. Now on to season 3. Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yesterday's Enterprise. Great show, actually.
Right, it brings back Tasha Yar. For those who don't know, we have a supplemental with Yesterday's Enterprise. But basically the Enterprise C comes through a temporal vortex, changes the timeline, so the Federation's at war with the Klingons, and the Federation's losing. And the whole tone of the Federation's changed. It's not a scientific or expedition.
Warlike.
It's all war. The Enterprise it's a battleship, pretty much. Everyone's armed. No civilians on board except for Guinan in 10 forward.
Yep.
Which I
never
really
figured
get.
that one out.
Yeah, that's kind of weird that Guinan is.
And she remembers things.
Right, she knows that something's wrong. Which I also made a picture maybe a year ago or so, where Guinan senses that there's something wrong in the JJ universe. Because she would be around during this time period.
Yep.
In either universe, because in the episode Time Zero, she was in Earth, and that took place during the times of Mark Twain. So, yeah, Yesterday's Enterprise, awesome episode. Do you have any favorite moments?
My favorite part from that whole show was the fact that they took the time to redesign the bridge.
Oh, the bridge was beautiful.
And the
in
uniforms.
A dark way.
Yeah, and the uniforms. And if you notice, the light was pointed in a different way. Instead of being pointed down, light was pointed up. So it made them look darker. And the camera angles were all from down at the floor.
Right, a lot of them were, yeah.
Which is usually a sign of, it's more serious. I like the Enterprise C. I thought they could have done a lot more with that, though.
Oh, the design. Well,
because it looked more like the Enterprise A than anything.
Right, it was supposed to be an in-between from the B.
But it didn't even look like the B at all. I didn't think it looked like the B.
Well, they didn't really have a design for it. If you look at the models that they had on the Enterprise D wall in the observation lounge, they kind of just look like shapes. You know, I thought the design of the C wasn't too bad.
Yep.
I thought one of the cool things I noticed for the first time actually this year, the insignia that you like from the older uniforms had become a comm badge by the time of the Enterprise C.
Yes.
Because you see the guy in command tap it when he's communicating to or talking to someone not on the bridge, which I thought was awesome. That was when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to stop and look at that again. One of the famous lines from Star Trek, which is technically not in the Prime Universe, is let's make sure history never forgets the name Enterprise.
Yeah.
And that was uttered by this Captain Picard from this other universe.
The fall of the Enterprise was sending it back to be destroyed.
The fall of the Enterprise?
Yeah, well, they sent it back to be destroyed, really.
Well, they did, but that one ship saved millions of lives. And they didn't even know, well,
Okay.
most people wouldn't even know that because of once they went back, the timeline was repaired.
You want to fight about it? No, just kidding.
So next in my list here, I have The Best of Both Worlds Part 1 from Season 3.
Just part 1.
Well,
Is that Season 3?
So, I mean, awesome cliffhanger. The last lines of this episode is Mr. Worf, fire. And then it goes black and has the blue, to be continued. How epic is that? And then you have to wait all year, well, not all year, all summer, in order to find out what happens to Captain Picard, who has been captured and assimilated by the Borg. So do you have any favorite moments from this episode?
Yes, the fact that, well, I nitpick, but the fact that the end of the first show and the beginning of the second show are supposed to be the same scene, and it's totally different. That happens in a lot of shows, but my favorite part was the fact that you didn't know when I saw it the first time. We still really didn't know much about the Borg.
Right.
And the fact that Picard becomes a Borg is quite interesting. You know, you didn't expect to see Jean-Luc Picard as Locutus, and I think they did an excellent job with that.
Right. And the reason why is because of contract negotiations. No one was sure if Patrick Stewart would be back for a 4th season.
Really? So that's what it was, huh?
Yeah, so this was a way to, cover, all your bases. If negotiations didn't go through, you could be like, oh, Captain Picard, he's gone, he's dead, sorry. Or what thankfully happened
he's saved.
in the next, we find out in Season 4.
Months. In 3 months.
Yeah, in Season 4, Best of Both Worlds Part 2, Captain Picard is retrieved by his crew, and they find a way to stop the Borg from destroying Earth, or assimilating Earth. Right on the doorstep.
Yeah, what I find funny about that is, in that episode, if everybody had been under contract, that would have been a problem. It would have been an empty bridge and all of them over the other side.
Everyone was assimilated?
Yeah.
You would think that would happen in Voyager.
Yes.
A large amount of them.
No. Not think. I wished. I hoped.
It's weird. I think everyone was assimilated at one point in that show.
In Voyager?
In Voyager.
Yes.
I remember seeing everyone as a drone at one point.
Yes.
But anywho, the next episode from Season 4 is Family.
Picard goes back to France.
Right. And I don't think there was even one scene where he's in space in that whole episode.
No, it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be reestablishing what he felt.
Right, and reestablishing, his humanity, exactly. I mean, after the Borg basically ripped his humanity away.
Basically, if you realize it from the whole Deep Space Nine side, he was the one that attacked. He was the one that was controlling everything at the Battle of...
Wolf 359.
Yeah, he was the one that did all the attack.
That used him, yeah. I mean, obviously he didn't do it willingly. Because you see him, as he's being assimilated, like a tear, roll down his face during the assimilation process. So you know...
Did they show that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure they showed that. And it comes out in the episode Family that, the extent of what the Borg did, because Picard, ends up tussling with his brother, and then at the end of it, Picard ends up, Jean-Luc breaks down and starts crying about, the torment and, how bad the experience was.
Yep.
I mean, I can't imagine what that would have been like. Next on this list, Redemption Part 1. And this is the one where Worf ends up resigning his commission to go and fight for the Klingon Defense Force.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not one of my most favorite episodes, but it's definitely considered one of the better episodes. And the Klingon, I love Klingon ship design, and we get to see a lot of different Klingon ships in this episode.
Yep.
Now Worf has this sense of honor and whatnot, right? But he's never really been around Klingons because he was adopted by a human family. Now, when he's out there with the Klingons, he doesn't understand why they would be fighting with each other, especially during this Civil War. And it's kind of interesting to see how Worf's brother basically tells him how it is. He's like, out there when we're fighting, it's one thing, but now we're back here, and it's time to kind of relax and be ourselves. So it's interesting to get like a little bit more insight on Klingon behavior in this episode. Do you have any moments you want to share from Redemption? Either Redemption Part 1 or Part 2.
Yeah, he really seemed like a fish out of water.
Right.
Worf, and that's one of the things I actually enjoyed because you never see him that way.
Right. And it's weird to see him in full Klingon
garb.
Yeah, military uniform there. It's interesting to see.
And he had to didn't he have to resign from Starfleet?
Yeah, he took his communicator off and put it on the table because Picard basically wouldn't give him the leave that he needed. So he was like, I resign, and bam.
I'm done.
So it was an interesting episode because even then you're like, oh, well, is Worf gone? Is he going to come back? I mean, what's going to happen?
You can't get rid of him.
Right.
I mean, he's in every movie.
Well, this was obviously before that.
He's in every movie, including one he wasn't even in the timeline for.
Oh, yeah, his grandfather, Colonel Worf.
Colonel Worf.
Next, from Season 5, we have Darmok.
The one that talks weird.
Right, they use metaphors to communicate.
Jalad at whatever.
Right, and Captain Picard is beamed down with the captain of the other ship, and basically this forces them to relate to each other and I don't want to say become friends, but Picard understands them.
Yep.
Through this joint experience. The captain ends up dying, unfortunately. Not Picard, the other captain.
Yep.
Dies.
Picard really takes it hard, too.
Well, because they end up sort of relating to each other, and I don't want to say become friends, but he likes him. I mean, at first Picard thinks that they're enemies, but they end up having to come together to fight a foe, this, I guess, animal that is naturally cloaked, that comes and attacks, and that's how the alien captain is killed. And then Picard relays the news to the other ship, and a new saying is created, a new metaphor is created for that situation. Highly regarded episode, not really one of my favorites, but a good episode. Next, we have Unification Parts 1 and 2, the return of Spock, which I don't think anyone saw coming.
No.
And I think a really decent episode. What do you think?
I thought that it had a lot of potential. Personally, I don't find it to be one of the best ones.
Really?
I think it was really good that Spock was back in, but at the same time, and I liked the storyline, but I thought it just lacked. There was no, it was big, but not huge,
Right. I mean, I thought that like you said, the plot of the story was good, but it could definitely have used a little more. I mean, some of it was a little slow. I thought the whole idea of unification was good between the Romulans and the Vulcans. I thought it was really cool how they basically turn it around and it ends up being a Romulan plot to not unify with the Vulcans, but to take over the Vulcans, which I can't see how they would ever think they would be successful. because we have Earth and the rest of the Federation that definitely wouldn't sit back and let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was going to be the last time that we saw Spock or Leonard
You were
Nimoy.
wrong.
I'm glad I was.
You were so wrong.
Next from Season 5, we have Inner Light, which is widely regarded as one of the better episodes. Not one of my favorite episodes, because when this first came out, I was pretty young and didn't really appreciate the story, and it was kind of slow. But basically an alien probe shoots out this beam, it hits Picard, and Picard, in the matter of, I want to say half an hour or so, lives a lifetime on this planet. And basically this is a capsule that is sent out because the people that sent it, their planet is dying because their sun.
Yep.
So this probe is basically to carry on their race so that others would know about them. It's kind of like a time capsule, but this time capsule basically takes you over and you become part of a story, almost like a holodeck, but you're living it the whole lifetime in a matter of moments. And in this episode, Picard is where Picard's flute comes from.
Yes, he learns how to play it that way.
And he learns how to play it, and it is kind of significant throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the flute actually doesn't play. In real life, it's just like a wooden carving. Wooden carving.
And neither does Picard.
And neither does Picard.
Yeah.
He's a wooden carving.
Oh, good.
Wooden carving. Jeez.
Carving.
Ugh.
Carving.
It's the Bostonian accents coming out.
The carving.
So next, pushing on to Season 6, we have Relics, which is one of my favorite episodes.
Now remind me, which one is Relics? I don't remember, honestly. There's
So
many episodes that I don't remember all of them.
So Relics is the one with Scotty.
Ah, okay. I just don't know the names.
Scotty's ship is found on the surface of a Dyson sphere, where they beam down and find that there are patterns in the transporter buffer. So they materialized the pattern, and Scotty comes out. He goes, "Oh no, there's someone else in there. Let's try to get him." And unfortunately, the other pattern is too far degraded, and he's lost. But then we go through this episode, and it's basically Scotty trying to adapt to this new time frame of the 24th century.
And even though he is from a future time compared to us, anybody taken out of the time and put into the next generation, hate to use that phrase, but
was apt.
Yeah, would be a fish out of water.
Right.
He even has the what do you call it? The holodeck recreate the bridge of the Enterprise.
Right, of the original Enterprise. Yeah, which I thought that was kind of cool to see it.
They got it pretty close too.
Oh yeah, no, it was spot on. That episode was great, and it was kind of cool to see one engineer relate to the other engineer, Geordi and Scotty, and Scotty kind of telling him, you don't tell people how long things will actually take, because how will you be considered a miracle worker?
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical when he said that.
But he was right.
No, yeah, he was right.
Surprising.
It was surprising. The whole episode was well done. It was comical. There were parts that were dramatic. It was a better episode, I think, than Unification was in bringing back a character from the original series. Now, this is the fourth character from the original that we see, because we see in
the first episode,
Encounter at Farpoint, we have McCoy. Then we have Sarek in a couple episodes.
Yeah, I always forget about Sarek.
Then we have Spock, and then we got Scotty. And I think that's it, unless there are some minor characters that were in the show, which there probably were. I just can't think of any at the top of my head. So Relics, love it, watch it. We should do a supplemental episode on Relics. Okay, or not.
No, we could.
Next, we have Chain of Command. So Chain of Command is the episode with the Cardassians. You know, there are 4 lights.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
There are 4 lights.
It's that episode. I thought it was really cool because you see, you know, kind of like espionage in this episode where they're like scaling down rock faces in this secret mission, and then Picard ends up being captured by the Cardassians. The Enterprise is under the command of I think Jellicoe.
Yes.
I think completely different type of officer than Picard is. Very stern. I thought Picard was stern. This other guy is much worse. Riker and him kind of bump heads in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Picard being tortured by the Cardassian. Picard doesn't get a break. It's kind of hard to watch. I mean, Patrick Stewart did an awesome job in his portrayal.
Yeah. Like a POW, basically.
Exactly. And he does a good job showing he's not only being physically broken, he's being mentally broken in this episode.
You can see his spirit being destroyed.
Right.
Which you never see with him.
Right. And then he says, he could see 5 lights, even though he knew there were 4. And he was at the point where he was going to say, fine, there are 5 lights. But he didn't. He held out. Shows the strength of his character. I mean, Picard is one tough guy if you think about it. He's been assimilated. He's been tortured. So I mean, Picard, man, he's a tough cookie. If you think about it, probably been through a lot worse than any other or most Starfleet captains. He's been in firefights. Staring down the throats of Romulans. Crazy. He was the subject of Romulan plot to infiltrate Starfleet.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that they had him too.
Yeah. So, Chain of Command, it's a good 2-parter. One of the better 2-parters in the series. Some others have been kind of hit or miss, but this is a good one. Next, we have Tapestry.
We have many tapestries.
So this is another Q episode, and Picard episode, actually, where...
It's usually Q and Picard, usually.
Right. So Picard is basically dead, and he wakes up in the afterlife to find that Q is God. And Q gives Picard a second chance to relive his life by changing a moment from his past where he is stabbed through the heart by a Nausicaan. Because Picard dies because of this blast that goes off, and it destroys his artificial heart that he has. If he had a real heart and that explosion occurred, he would have survived. So Q offers him this chance. He goes, makes the changes, and then flash forward into now, and Picard's a completely different man.
Different rank. I find it hard that he would still be on the Enterprise.
Well, I mean, Barclay was on the Enterprise, so I don't see why he wouldn't have been on the Enterprise. So basically, nothing special, just a regular officer that, he does what he can to get by. Nothing like the Captain Picard that we know from the regular timeline.
Yep.
Picard realizes, his mistake and realizes that, Q is basically teaching me a lesson here. And Picard would rather die the man he was than live the rest of his life as this other man that didn't take the risks.
Yep.
A great episode. Highly recommend it. It's very funny. Some parts in the episode are very funny. We have some other, serious parts of the episode. A lot of humor with Q and Picard in this episode.
Yeah. The later seasons, especially towards the end, they did become more of almost like college buddies back and forth sparring.
Right.
Even though it was serious, I mean, there's still a light part to it.
Right. Next, we have from season 7. We have the episode Parallels, which after a Batleth tournament, Worf.
You have trouble with that word too.
Tournament?
No, Batleth.
Which I have. I have a Batleth.
Yes, you do. Is it still sharp?
Sharp as ever. So, Worf's shuttle intersects this quantum fissure and basically taps into these parallel universes. So Worf, every time he comes into contact with Geordi's visor, is pushed into another parallel universe where things are slightly different.
Yeah.
And
slightly
different. And this episode is so awesome, I think, where we have... I just like the idea of parallel universes. And it's cool to see the differences in these universes of how Starfleet could be and, like, different choices. Basically, the last universe that Worf is in there, Picard had been assimilated and captured and killed by the Borg. And Riker had become captain.
Yep.
And Worf had become the first officer in this universe. And he had a relationship with Troy in this universe. And it was just so cool. And then at the final moment, we have all, like, a breakdown between the fabric between these universes. And then we have all these different Enterprise Ds just popping in.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then we see one of the Enterprise Ds that had been ravaged by the Borg. It was on it's one of the last ships in the Federation. They did not want to go back, so they were firing on the shuttle that had Worf in it. Yep. And or I believe it was the shuttle that had Worf in it, or something. And the Enterprise, one of the Enterprises fired at that Enterprise, and it wasn't anything bad. It was only like a small, low-powered shot, and it destroyed that Enterprise because
I remember that. Yeah,
been so weakened from the Borg.
Yep.
I think it was just one great episode.
But
it's
I
one
also
of my favorites.
I like the design differences. Again, throwback to yesterday's Enterprise. They designed the bridges differently.
Yeah, it was cool to see.
Slightly
They had
different.
they had these plexiglass sections, which kind of remind me of the new Enterprise from the JJ verse. How they have these glass sections where you can write on and do all these other things with. Which was pretty awesome.
It's awesome!
I really like this episode. It's probably my favorite Worf episode.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it was towards the end, too.
Yeah.
They got better and better towards the end.
It was hit and miss, I thought.
No, I thought it was better and better.
One of my least favorite episodes... one of my least favorite episodes from this season is Masks, where Data lives out these different civilizations, and the Enterprise is being transformed into the civilization. So you don't even remember it, so bad.
I don't remember that one.
It's really bad. I'm not a fan of it. It's kind of like the inner light that exploded outward instead of all being contained into one person. That's how I view the episode. I didn't like it. No. But moving on to the better moments from the series, the Pegasus was a very good episode. So in this episode, we find out that the Federation had been developing a interphasic cloaking device against the Treaty of Algeron, I believe is the name of it, which prohibited the development of cloak technology within the Federation that the Federation signed with the Romulans, the peace treaty there. The Enterprise D was sent on a mission to go retrieve the cloaking device, basically.
Yep.
And Riker faces these moral dilemmas, which ends up being played out in the last episode of Star Trek Enterprise. Which that last episode of Star Trek Enterprise was a great episode of The Next Generation, which could have been fit neatly into this episode, The Pegasus.
Neatly.
Right, so did you like this episode? I thought the interfacic cloak was really cool. I liked that.
I liked it. I liked how it was trapped in the...
And the rock?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool, and like no one knew why it was trapped in the rock. And then
we all knew.
And then they had Riker, tells them, oh, the device that's in the Admiral's quarters is a cloaking device, but it's interphasic cloak, so you can pass through matter. So they set it up, and then they are able to use it and go through the rock that had, the asteroid that had been sailed by the Romulans.
Yep.
Great episode. I liked it.
It was quite an interesting episode, and also it questions Riker's ability to follow command. You know what I mean? Kind of like as Picard was tortured, this kind of is a similar torture to his, like, almost his ability to follow regulations and things of that sort. So I found it very interesting.
Right. Well, he ended up. I mean, he was a young officer when this happened.
Yep. But it still was quite what's the word, challenging for him.
Right. And that's kind of what plays out in the Enterprise episode. How it's a moral dilemma. Like, what do I do? Do I stand by my old commanding officer, or do I do the right thing? And he at the end of the day, he chooses to do the right thing.
Yep, which is great.
True that. Next, from Season 7, Lower Decks, which I thought was cool because it showed us life on the Enterprise through a different set of eyes. We have lower-ranking crew members in this episode, and you
don't normally see. It's like a day in the life of.
Right, and it's quite a good episode. It has some funny moments, but then it has not so funny moments, when we have one of these new lower ranking officers that we kind of came to know a little bit. We find out that she ends up dying, and then another crew member that we saw gets promoted. It was a really interesting take. I mean, I would never have thought to write an episode from
the perspective of another group of people you've never seen.
Right, and that have, been there. Because we don't only see these lower-ranking crew members, we also see a bartender.
Bartender!
That frequents a poker game.
Yes. With
these lower-ranking members of the Enterprise crew. And it's kind of cool how it parallels the senior members of the crew. It's kind of cool to see. It's not one of the most exciting episodes.
No, it's not one of those action-packed ones, but it's quite interesting.
Yeah. And then finally, All Good Things
must come to an end.
Which, like I said at the top of the broadcast here, it's a bookend to
the first episode.
The first episode. So it neatly, ties the whole series up into a nice little bow. And the basic plot of this episode is Picard is going between 3 different time periods, but the time periods exist separate from themselves.
And at the same time.
Right, and it's Q who's sending him back and forth. And basically, an anti-time rift, basically, is getting bigger and bigger as you go backwards in time, and it's eventually going to destroy humanity. And it turns out Picard's the one that caused this anti-time.
His tachyon pulse.
With his, tachyon beams converging in 3 different time periods at the same spot.
In space, yeah.
In space, and...
Funny about it is, not only is it just a question of science? Because that's really what the answer is as far as the tachyon beam. But really what Q's trying to do is see if Picard can think outside the box. See if humanity can think outside the box.
Right, and
typically the way that reality works is that if you shoot something now, it's going to affect later, not in the past.
Right.
And basically he made things run backwards.
Mm-hmm.
But he wanted to expand his mind and see if he could do it.
Right, and that's what saved humanity.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for that spark,
that mere second when his mind could be open to new possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the whole point, and that's what he says to him too.
Yeah, but that's basically what it says. And then Picard's like, "Q, what are you telling me?" And then he leans over like he's gonna whisper in his ear, and then pulls back and goes, "You'll find out in time."
And I always thought that was a good bookend for one of the movies.
I think
I always thought they should have done something with the movies.
This episode would have been a better Generations than Generations was.
Yes.
But what can you do? I think there should have been a Q movie.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Right. I agree with you. There should have been a Q movie, but what would they have done? You could have done a lot of things, but would have gotten people that don't know Star Trek into the theater? I don't know.
Yeah, but Generations wouldn't have. It didn't.
I think it brought old Trekkies that maybe didn't warm up to the new series to come see it, to see, Shatner. Because remember, this is like the heyday of Star Trek right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had, Star Trek The Next Generation. DS9 had just started. The Next Generation was, highly rated during this time. And then they go right into the movie. They didn't waste any time. So all good things, great episode.
Would have been a better movie.
Dealing with time travel and Q. The effects were great, I thought. It was cool seeing the Enterprise D from the future timeline where it has three nacelles
and that cannon.
That phase cannon.
Yep, and it had fins at the end of it too.
Yeah, it had these different aesthetics on it that made it an interesting looking ship. It was obviously a refit. The original Enterprise went through a refit, so the Enterprise D, would have to go through some kind of refit after a certain amount of time. You have to, improve upon these ships that have been around for so long.
Yep.
Make it faster. This thing went warp 13, which basically means the warp skill had to have been recalibrated. And we see Admiral Riker. We see bits of the timeline that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yep.
New uniforms in the future timeline, new communicator design, new ships. We learn about Picard marrying Dr. Crusher and divorcing Captain Picard, Captain Beverly Picard.
But she uses the name.
Yeah, she kept the name. So,
no.
All good things. 1994, awesome episode.
The best episode of the whole series.
It ranks up there.
No, I think it's the best.
The best episode?
Yeah, of the whole series.
Of the whole series?
Mm-hmm.
You might be right. All right, you're right. This is the best episode of the series. So yeah, that's it for our topic. Those are our favorite Star Trek episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Or the best Star Trek episodes that we can think of from The Next Generation. So, moving on to the next topic, subspace channels.
Are they open?
Channels open. So this week's subspace channel is, what was your favorite moment from Star Trek The Next Generation? So, from Twitter, we have at little cute girl 86. When Data meets his brother and the crew tries to shut down the brother. This is the episode Data Lore that she's referring to. The first time we...
Maybe, the whole part when they're trying to shut him down?
Yeah.
And then they jettison him out into space?
Right, when Data kind of throws him over to the transporter.
Yeah.
and beams out with the crystalline entity.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that episode was her favorite moment, I guess. Next, we have at Jaffa Star, who says, "Oh dear, should I admit this? Well, it's when Worf when Worf delivers Keiko's baby. So touching and very funny.
It was funny. Are you feeling pressure? That's all I remember is
You may deliver the baby.
Deliver the baby. Thank you.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, that scene. Because Worf is so...
Serious.
Worf cannot relax. That's Worf's problem. He cannot relax.
He's very Klingon for a guy who's not.
He isn't.
Yeah, but he does have. But that's the problem. The Klingon side that he does have interferes with him being totally human.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to be the total opposite of humans and just figured that's what Klingons were.
Mm-hmm.
But Klingons aren't like that. They're, they laugh and
they would have cut the woman's head off and then pulled out the baby.
Have fun with each other, and mess around with each other. And Worf's all business, which I
like somebody to I just wish somebody in the series had bumped into him. He gets mad and he goes, "Oh, okay, Mr. Pushy."
Oh.
At Geeky Girl in KY, when Picard explains the Epic of Gilgamesh in Darmok. I love that entire episode, though.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I love that entire episode.
Picard. I liked how you said
Picard.
You like Picard.
Because I'm tired.
Bostonian accents.
When Picard explains
show
the
themselves.
Epic of Gilgamesh.
That was one of our episodes that we talked about.
Mm-hmm. At Caleb Beldam,
mm-hmm.
when Locutus tells Riker and Shelby that resistance is futile. Tingles. Pound Star Trek. Hashtag
Star Trek. Yeah,
Isn't that the pound on the phone, though?
It is the pound on the phone.
But it's hashtag.
Yep. So, yeah, that episode, Best of Both Worlds, pretty epic.
And Shelby goes off and dies.
Shelby doesn't die.
She does later on, I thought.
I don't know. Not in the series.
Not in that one, but I think sometime.
I think in a book, maybe.
Yeah, she does.
Not in film.
But she would have been the first officer. Think about it. If Picard hadn't come back, the show would have went on, and it probably would have had her as the first officer.
Well, they probably would have wrote around it, but Riker did choose her.
No, I'm sorry. Picard.
Picard. Picard didn't choose her.
No, just say the word right.
Oh, okay. So, next.
Facebook.
We have Eric Dewey from the 4-Eyed Radio Network. So many great ones in TNG. How to pick just one favorite. I know I've mentioned this moment on previous Subspace Channel questions, but the moment I would pick is from Measure of a Man, when Guinan and Picard are talking in 10 forward, and she gently leads him to the conclusion that building an army of Datas to do the Federation's dirty work would basically be slavery. And we kind of we touched on that when we talked about Measure of a Man earlier.
I think he brings this up every single Subspace.
I'm pretty sure it's his favorite episode, so yeah. he tries to work it in. And it is a great episode.
He goes on to say...
Oh, he does.
Yes, he goes on to say...
Such a powerful moment, and really shows the great connection between those two characters.
Very good.
Great episode, Eric. Thank you for commenting.
We're just going to copy this into the next week's notes so you don't have to do it.
Yeah, so you don't have to answer next week.
Okay, so Shannon Kelsey says, I am not a merry man. Followed by Worf smashing the Loot XD.
Loot, and that's an emoticon for a smile. Yeah, so that's the episode where, I think it's Cupid, where...
That's an emoticon for smile?
Yeah.
It looks like, the X.
Like squinting.
Yeah, okay.
So, I think that's the episode Cupid.
Yeah.
Where Q kind of takes the crew and puts them into a medieval Robin Hood scenario.
I'm not a merry man.
And that kind of goes back to what we were kind of talking about earlier. Worf is all business, and he
has no sense of humor.
No sense of humor, although that moment was very funny. But
he wasn't trying to be.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to be. There were a couple of funny moments in the episode, like when Troy shoots Data with a bow and arrow. accidentally, obviously. Next,
Our
from
Google Plus.
Google Plus, we have Jens Fiedler. Sorry.
In German, Aaron, the I and E thing is the opposite of English. So if you see an E after an I, it's E, and if you see an I after an E, it's pronounced the I.
See, I would not have known that. But he says it's the scene in Relics where Scotty and Geordi are together, and Scotty is talking about his hangover, and that's a very funny moment in that episode, Relics. Which Relics is a great episode, and we talked about it a little earlier in the show.
So Django Jacobson Fine says, when Locutus Borg first shows up on the view screen, which I said earlier too, that's one of the pivotal moments in Best of Both Worlds.
Right. One of the pivotal moments in all of Star Trek, I think. Emotional. Well, it's not the...
It is emotional, though, because, one, you don't expect Picard to be a Borg.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you know what that means for the crew and the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And three, it also, you can tell that Riker's torn.
Right, because, do I fire at him? Or if I fire at him,
Will
he's
I get
dead.
demoted? I'm just kidding.
he has to choose
Picard or the crew.
Picard or humanity. Because if
they get to Sector 001...
Right, there will be no stopping them. And Riker thinks that this is the only chance they have.
Yep. I like how they refer to it as that, though. Sector 001.
Oh, well, because, we have to be at the center of everything.
Yeah, but theoretically, we're not in the center of the Star Trek universe.
No, but plotting-wise, I guess.
To them, that we were.
Right, well, they start, we're Sector 1, and then they go out in different,
three angles. Yeah, three dimensions, basically.
Yeah, and plot them that way, which
X,
I
Y,
would
and Z.
imagine that would be very difficult to do.
Yes.
I mean,
you know what I
don't know how you would do that.
You know what I never understood? When they would say, take us to coordinates 650 Mach 72.
Mm-hmm.
The Mach 72 talks about the up and down, the Z in the XYZ plane. And I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah, it's like your pitch and whatever.
What'd you say?
Pitch.
Pitch perfect?
So next we have an audio
A
answer.
special audio entry from Clive Burrell. So you know this will only be 4 or 5 hours. Anyways, no, we love Clive, honestly. It's just that I think Clive writes more. He writes more for these things and thinks about it more than I wrote for my whole thesis for my bachelor's degree.
Hi, Eric, Marty, and Aaron. It's Clive, and you asked about this week was most significant moment from TNG. For me, there are two that kind of stand in my mind. The first one is actually one that's not an aired moment. It was 26th of September 1990, which was the first time that they aired an episode on BBC Two in the UK. For me, that was a big moment. It was a really significant part of my childhood. It was the first time I'd ever watched a new episode of Star Trek without my father. My dad was at work at the time, and it was just amazing. It was new, it was so different, and I just watched it for an hour and a half, and suddenly it was all gone. My dad was home, and the first thing was kind of telling him about this amazing new Star Trek series that had premiered on the TV, and from then onwards, Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock were pretty much taken over by this new series of adventures of Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise. The second one for me is a really significant moment in the series itself, and it's from the episode Q Who from season 2 of TNG. The episode itself is, of course, a classic with the Q and the Borg. It just has everything you could want from a classic episode. But for me, there's a moment near the end, and it's the speech that Q gives to Picard about the wonders of the universe and the dangers that are out there, and the fact that he's got to be prepared to take a bloody nose to explore and see these new stuff that's out there. So it's a brilliant moment, a brilliant speech, and it's a moment you realise after sort of a year and a half and 3 years of the original series that these guys aren't that indestructible, and there is now an enemy out there that is more powerful and virtually omnipotent, that will cause them a great deal of problems in the future. It was the first idea really that was going to be a recurring storyline, the first meeting with the Borg that would change everything in the future and give us an enemy that really kind of knocked Q from his perch as probably the biggest villain that TNG had created to that point. But that speech really defined that this was a crew that were going to face some challenges, in the arrogance that perhaps Starfleet had displayed in the sort of first season or so of TNG really wasn't the way it was going to be in the future. And obviously we found out a year or so later with Best of Both Worlds. So there are my 2 moments. Hopefully that's good enough for you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Clive, for your answer.
That was great. So what else is up for tonight?
So our final segment of the show. Do you know
what puts Aaron's quantum state into flux?
Do you know what puts my quantum state into flux?
I think I just said that. Do you know what puts Aaron's quantum state into flux?
Let me tell you.
What puts your quantum state into flux?
The Next Generation Ferengi. When we first see the Ferengi in The Last Outpost, they are built up to be an aggressive species, possibly a species that would become the new Klingons of the Next Generation. They fell short of this goal and had sporadic encounters throughout the Next Generation. The Ferengi didn't become interesting or fully developed until Deep Space Nine, when they had a main Ferengi character, Quark.
And, if I can add to that,
Go ahead.
It was a totally different direction for the Ferengi.
Right, so do you agree with...
Yeah, they were more of a militaristic... Actually, they were more like pirates. That's what I would call them. They were the pirates of the Next Generation. Because remember, they tried to steal ships and try to control them and sneak on board, and they also used like whips to control their slaves and things like that.
Well, that whip thing lasted like 1 episode.
7 seconds, but...
Thankfully. Although the Playmates toy I had, I believe, came with a whip.
Wow. Getting kids into that stuff, really? I just think that they were supposed to be like... Ferengi was supposed to be like pirates, really.
I think they were... Like, they showed them as materialistic, and...
You got my treasure now.
Well, I guess their ship, it was a Marauder-class ship, so I guess you're right.
Yes.
They were supposed to be pirate-like.
But you're right. An adversary that would be more warlike, like the Klingons.
Right, because, I mean, they were very... Yeah, they were willing to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And they, jumped on the away team party on the planet and, were very, I don't know, barbaric, aggressive.
And they even seemed different. Their whole mindset was different than although the Ferengi are annoying and pains in the ass and sometimes would get in your face, they have by far nowhere near a tactical or militaristic adversary to the Federation.
Right. That's how they end up evolving to. By the time of Deep Space Nine, they were definitely just
Barters.
Traders. Yeah.
Who were trying to con people out of things.
Right, and you didn't really see their military at all in Deep Space Nine.
There was no military, really.
Well, not in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
But in Next Gen, there was definitely a military.
I also thought the ships had a lot more could have been done with those.
They were
weird,
interesting. They were big.
Yeah.
It like a crescent, and then like a little
crescent in the front
thing that comes out, and another crescent.
I also think that they didn't, when they first created the Ferengi ship, I don't think they really knew how big the Enterprise was supposed to be either. It's like in the early days, I think.
I think they had a good idea. I think...
Or they just had a different idea of what the species was going to be.
I think they had a different idea of what the Ferengi were going to be.
Yeah, because if you notice in Deep Space Nine, the ship that Quark has is much smaller.
Oh, but that wasn't meant to be anything like the ships from
the
Next Generation.
It was so tiny.
Well, the Federation has tiny ships. That was basically like a shuttle
Watch what
that
you're
he
saying,
had. Buddy. But yeah, so the Ferengi from Deep Space. The Ferengi from Next Generation.
Had a
Total
lot to be
letdown.
desired for.
And I'm glad that they became what they became in Deep Space Nine. They're just nothing like, or barely
Original
anything
concept.
like they were
Other than
in
the
the
look.
original.
And even the look was different because if you remember, they
Mhm.
had like furs on, and they
Yeah.
had tattoos. You're right. They had tattoos on their ridges, on their heads.
Yeah, on that bump there,
Yeah.
they had a
Identification tattoo.
It was kind of the military, a military tattoo.
Yeah.
Is basically what it was, and you never see any of the other Ferengi from Deep Space Nine with that tattoo.
No. Did they also have? Did they have the? You know how like Quark wears the thing on the back of his head to cover the ridge?
Yeah, they had that.
They had that. Okay.
Yeah, that
They-
stayed. That's the one thing that like really
It
stayed.
Yeah. And they didn't talk about women in it either. And then later on, you got the women, and they were.
Oh no, they talked about women in the first episode.
No. Not their women, though, did they?
No, they did. They were like, "You clothed your
Oh,
females."
the clothes, the females, yeah.
Yeah, and funny though, the actor that plays Quark is in that
Yes.
episode playing a Ferengi.
The fact
Right.
is the Ferengi were way different in their concept in TNG than they were in Deep Space Nine, and it's a good thing they rethought that one out.
Right. So that's what puts my quantum state into flux. The
Do you take some
TNG
medicine for that?
Ferengi. No, not yet.
Quantum
What?
Flexerol?
Know what I should take?
What?
More Star Trek.
More
I
cowbell.
need a new series, but that's for another day and time.
You need more cowbell.
All right, sir. I think that's it for this week. All right, so yeah, thank you for listening. Hopefully, we'll have a full crew next time with me, Marty, and Eric.
Yeah, Eric took a step out into space for a day. We gotta pick him up.
Hopefully, he's holding his breath, so we can open up the
Ow!
escape pod and get him back in.
Wouldn't
All right.
we be dead too if we did that?
Force field.
Yeah,
Force field thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know how shuttles can exit
Yeah.
and come back in? Same thing.
So, for this week,
Okay.
for the Starfleet Escape Pod, I'm Marty.
And I'm Aaron. See you next week. Keep on trekking.
Trektastic.
Star trekking across the universe.
On the Starship Enterprise. Under the... What is it?
Slowly going forward, because we get on time reverse. You have been listening to the Starfleet Escape Podcast on the Four-Eyed Radio Network, where you can catch a new episode every other Monday. You can find us on the web at sfescapepod.com. Follow us on Twitter at sfescapepod. Like us on Facebook.com/sfescapepod. And add us to your circle on Google Plus by going to google.sfescapepod.com.
This has been another proud production of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. You want to see more shows, go check out www.foureyedradio.com, you wink.